back to another episode of the Candid Cox Cast, where we basically talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to coxing and rowing. And I'm actually really excited about this special episode today. We sort of have a lot of drama going on in the rowing world, and we're going to talk about that today. So I want to dive right into talking about some of these programs that are being cut through this COVID time, this COVID mess, whatever you want to call it. So we brought on Dartmouth rowers. I really want to hear from you guys and hear about how this is impacting you and your program because actually, you know what? I'm not even going to say it. Gabe, first of all, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and then tell us what happened. And then I want to hear from Chris and Kiana as well. So Gabe, take it away. What's going on?
Yeah, so on Thursday, this past Thursday, July 7th, I believe, we got an email from our athletic department just saying to join a Zoom call at 1:30 p.m. This is about half an hour we had we have a half an hour of notice for this Zoom call, and we hopped on. It was us, the golf team.
And you had no idea what this was about, right?
No, yeah. Like all the emails said was that we had to join the Zoom call for an important announcement regarding athletics. They didn't give any indication about what was going on. And we got on. The athletic director talked for a few minutes just about how they had the opportunity to make some small cuts across the board or cut a few teams fully, and then just told us, the men's and women's swimming and diving, and the men's and women's golf teams, that we were cut. And they told the golf and swimmers that they could join the club teams, but told us they wouldn't be pursuing a club option for us because it was too dangerous. I don't understand what that meant. But they told us, we can join the heavyweight team, and that was pretty much it. And then 10 minutes later, they sent an email out to the rest of the school, kind of talking about some reasons why they did it that they didn't actually give us in the original meeting itself, which was only about 6 or 8 minutes long.
So you had 30 minutes to basically have your lives changed without notice.
Yeah.
You could either join the heavyweight team or just not row.
Yeah, those are the options they gave us. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to dive into that. But first of all, tell me a little bit about who you are. And then I want to hear from Chris and Kiana as well. How'd you get into this? How'd you end up at Dartmouth? Tell me a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm currently a rising junior on the team. I'm 22. I started rowing back in high school with Community Rowing Incorporated in Boston. I started a little bit late at the start of my sophomore spring, coming from soccer and alpine skiing. And, I fell in love with rowing and did it for the next few years. Because I started so late, I didn't really have, I only had 1 year of winter training under my belt. So I didn't really have the best scores for recruiting. But, I was in some other schools. I was looking at Georgetown, that kind of stuff. But I decided to apply to Dartmouth, early decision. And I got in, immediately emailed Trevor, who was the assistant coach, and asked him for a spot on the team. And he told me I could join it when I got there. And so I've been on the team since day one. I've loved every minute of it. The team is a really great group of guys. And I'm just sad to see that the school doesn't really realize that, recognize that.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll talk more about that. Chris, what about you?
Yeah. Hi. So I'm Chris, from California, San Francisco Bay Area, grew up here. And I went to the Kent School in Connecticut where I rowed, and then went to Dartmouth and, recruited. So I've been there since the first day of my freshman year. And it was just like basically what Gabe said about our process of being cut, came as a big surprise to me too, because when I was recruited, the biggest thing I remember was the coach asked for my commitment for 4 years and stuff. And obviously you think about that and how they're asking that of you when you commit, and you think of the same promise, which is what I made when I committed to Dartmouth. And I was under that impression. So in addition to everything Gabe said about the surprise and stuff of it, yeah, just coming from the West Coast, obviously a big commitment to go to school on the East Coast for one, but also when you go to college with that impression, I think, as a recruited athlete, there's a certain obligation, I think, from the people that recruit you to carry out their end of the deal, which if they remove that completely from your life, it's imagine if you had committed to something and that same thing happened and you did that to someone else, that's like the same type of betrayal you'd feel, I think.
Absolutely. And do you think the coaches knew ahead of time?
Well, when I was recruited, probably not, because actually the coach who recruited me isn't our coach anymore. So I think if anything, he had no idea this was going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
even before this Zoom call, like, was it a surprise to coaches as well?
They were
I think, well, they said, like, we had a Zoom call the same day afterwards, and we talked about it, and they said they had no idea it was happening. I think, well, the athletic department also mentioned the release that they wanted to keep it as, I guess, secret as possible until it was all released, for a number of reasons that they listed. But yeah, I don't think the coaches were I don't think they knew about it. Definitely not to the extent that the news came to us. Like, I think they were pretty shocked by it.
Okay.
In the same way we were.
Okay. And Kiana, what about you? Thanks so much for coming today.
Hi. So I actually joined the team with no experience in rowing whatsoever. I had barely even heard of the sport, but I ran track and field in high school, and my senior year got injured and wasn't able to walk onto the track team at Dartmouth, but I still wanted to be on a team. I wanted to compete. So I joined the women's rowing team, and I'm only about 5'3". So after a quarter of rowing with girls who are a lot taller and stronger than I was, I just wasn't going to be very competitive, and talked with my coaches, and they decided that coxing would be a better fit. And from then on, I was a coxswain for the lightweight men's team and never regretted a single moment of it. I actually graduated in 2018, and now I'm a rising third year law student at Northwestern and an assistant coach for the Chicago Rowing Foundation.
Wow. No big deal. Congratulations. That's incredible. And how did you end up on the lightweight team as opposed to the heavyweight team? Why the lightweights?
It was just serendipity. They needed a coxswain at the time, and I was willing to. So it was just luck.
Yeah, I hear you. And so, you guys, let's talk a little bit about what happened. You sort of told us, you had this Zoom call. Let's say right after the Zoom call, you find out that things are going to be cut, and you guys are about to start up the year again, right? So you're finding this out basically as you're starting, and now the rug has totally been pulled out from under you. What do you do? What happens? Where do you go from here? Like, you're just sitting there looking at each other, like, now what? What'd your coach say? What happened?
You want to go, Chris?
Yeah, sure. Well, the school told us immediately during their announcement that first, swimming and golf, men's and women's, could join their club teams, which is some consolation, I guess. And they told us that we could join the heavyweight teams. But
obviously, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Obviously, we know as lightweights, you don't just join a heavyweight team. Like, nothing is going to be the same for you joining a heavyweight team. It's a completely different experience. So, lightweights are not going to be going up against guys that are 220, 6'5". It just, you're going to be racing Harvard, Yale, UW, all, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, I think, like, both for our team and for the other teams that were cut, it was kind of like, they said that we could join those teams, but didn't really, I think that deeply about what that really meant. Because for us, it's like, you already have a team that's established and has had a team culture and a sense of camaraderie that's been built. That doesn't just come from just signing up for something. Like, you don't get that from day one. And then when they tell you that, as a matter of fact, you can just join another team and everything should be fine. Well, there are a few problems with that. I think first, like, obviously you miss the aspect, the unique culture that's unique to your own team, but also they're taking away, like, the sense of, like, value you have to, like, compete for someone or something that you care about. I'm not saying that we don't care about Dartmouth or we don't care about heavyweight rowing, but, like, there's something about being on a team together that they just basically completely ignored. And they told us that we could just join another team and it should be okay. And the other problem I think is that not everyone on our team will do that well on a team against people who are like that much larger. Like for one, you know, as everyone in the rowing community knows, like people who are smaller and lighter obviously will be have a harder time pulling the same splits on an erg, generally speaking, when compared to someone who's like bigger, heavier. And while you can go into like the individual, you know, the merits of like weight adjusted, this and that, or you know, techniques, racing, etc. Like it's still hard to compete, like, you know, on an erg sheet or something when you're competing against guys who are, I don't know, 6 inches taller than you or something, or have 70 pounds on you, which
Of course.
the administration totally ignored. And I mean, the truth is I don't think, you know, however many people we have on the roster for next year, it's not going to be that, let's just say all 30 people would have the opportunity and the ability to join that team and have anything close to the experience that they had. But the administration will tell you that, that's no problem. It's, you know, just go ahead and sign up and it'll be okay, which was kind of like an insult to everyone, I think, on the team.
Yeah, I bet. And Kiana, what about you? How does that feel for you, even as a coxswain, where sure, you probably could go to the heavyweight team and you're still a coxswain, but you know, what does it mean to you to lose the lightweights like this?
I mean, so as an alumni, it's crazy just seeing how passionately all the other alumni have responded, because like we have our memories from the team. The school cutting the team can't get rid of those, but just the passion that everyone feels about that tradition being able to continue and for more people to have that experience was just overwhelming. And I can only imagine the current lightweight coxswains. Actually, I've heard their testimonials. They've talked about it. They're heartbroken. As a coxswain, you take so much time, like getting to know your rowers. You can tell each individual rower tiny little technical changes, but also like their personalities and what they respond to. And just building that kind of relationship and the things that it takes to work up within a team and earn their respect. It doesn't happen overnight, and you can't just jump into a new team and expect everything to be just fine.
100%. Absolutely. What are some of their arguments for this? I mean, we're all seeing the effect, even globally. All we see is the program's been cut. And we're seeing this, you know, from Stanford now too. You know, we're wondering who's next. You know, what's the effect of this? You start cutting out some of these top tier teams. What is rowing going to look like when we start cutting out collegiate rowing? Because it doesn't bring in as much money as football or whatever. Let's talk about what some of their arguments are for doing this.
Yeah, well, so they, in the original email in the announcement, they laid out a couple of different arguments, most of which didn't really seem to make that much sense with our team. You know, one of them was the finances. You know, they were saving. They said they were saving $2 million by cutting these 5 teams, but the majority of that comes from them closing down the Ann Arbor Country Club. And so our team, there are so many costs that are already covered. You know, all of our travel and our drinkers, that kind of stuff, and our food when we're on training trips are covered by alumni. And you know, the only cost of college was paying for were, I think, our coaches' salaries, and there was a couple thousand more, which amounted to well over $100,000 less than the average they spent on all male teams at Dartmouth, like not even including football and basketball. In addition to that, you know, they talked about, you know, one of the metrics they used was the history and tradition of success. And you know, our team hasn't been at the top of the league for the last 7 years, but you know, we had a good amount of medals at sprints and IRAs before that. And some of our parents can actually compile some data from all the teams, all the male teams at Dartmouth, looking at, you know, what the percentage of championship wins and medals, that kind of stuff at you know, championship events were. And we placed solidly in the middle. You're above the heavyweight men's team. You're above a lot of other teams like lacrosse, baseball, that kind of stuff. And, you know, so, I mean, the school laid out about 7, 8, 9 reasons. One which I found especially kind of appalling was they mentioned the quality of facilities in relation to our peers as one of the reasons. And, you know, we just got a new $8 million addition to our boathouse. It puts us up there with some of the best rowing programs in the country. You know, we have these great moving water tanks, more erg space, more machines, like, you know, more bikes, more skiers, all that kind of stuff. We just got some new boats as well this past fall that were dedicated to our team from some alumni from '94. So that metric just seems completely, it doesn't make any sense, with regards to our team. And I don't want to throw any other teams under the bus, but there are definitely other teams that, have worse facilities than some of the competitors, and we're just not one of those teams.
I mean, that's unbelievable. So a lot of your costs are actually covered by alums and not even by the school itself. So really their costs are fairly minimal. And I only bring that up as something kind of important because if they're going to make that argument that they're saving money, are they? Are they really?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what does your alumni support look like? What do they, first of all, how do they feel about this? Have they said anything? Have the alumni come out and done anything? And what is their part in your team and donations and racing and travel and all that?
So I guess as an alum, I can speak to that a bit. As soon as the news came out, like people were instantly talking in like alumni group chats and trying to figure out what we could do. Right now, there's the petition right now that got started and everybody's been sharing that. We have like working groups going where people have broken up and taken whatever skills that they have, whether that's knowledge of the law or like increasing diversity, things like that. And people have been like putting everything into it, trying to get this team back. I've had 11 pages of testimonials sent to me just from alums talking about how much the team's meant to them. And a lot of those have also been sent to the school. And really the alums are doing everything that they can to try to get this team back.
Now, has the school itself actually said, like, if you can support yourself, or like, have they given you any conditions for which the team could come back?
No. I think they realize that the kind of cost argument doesn't really hold much water. They said they would anticipate there being some backlash and some petitions, that kind of stuff, and they're firm in their decision. But I just think that with enough pushback, enough alumni support, we can hopefully reach a favorable resolution. We've had a lot of people who have sent who emailed the president and the athletic director. They've gotten some kind of fluffy responses back that say, "Oh, we hear you. It was a difficult decision," but nothing right now that indicates that there's some firm thing we can do to alleviate this. So we're just trying everything we can. We have a bunch of different task groups right now that are all working on different aspects of this and trying to target it from different angles.
And what do you think your experience is going to be like coming back to school and just not having your sport anymore? Because this isn't going to be resolved right away.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is that, like, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but the coronavirus and all its effects have it ended our year early for all students because we all had to go home at basically in the beginning of March.
This was heartbreaker number one. First of all, let's talk about devastation here.
Right.
I've never felt so bad for a senior class. Really for anyone, but seniors that, either have to come back for a fifth year or just don't get their season back. Now you're struck with this.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
Oh yeah, no problem. Basically that was already like a big thing because for the students who weren't seniors and graduating, I think people were already looking forward to going back to school in the fall, even though coronavirus and the precautions and stuff still have to be taken throughout the fall. And I don't know, for who knows how long, but I think, it was already like a big deal. And then we were like, okay, all right, well, at least in the fall, we'll have school and we'll be on campus. And I think people were looking forward to that. And then, now it's like, in addition to not having the sport that people are enthusiastic about and people want to do because they had their seasons cut short, I think now it's like, in addition to having that taken away from you, it's like the school is telling you that they don't really care about you, or that for some reason or another they should have not admitted you, because their main reasoning for this whole cutting thing was that they wanted more recruitment spots taken away and given to other students who they thought were strong in other areas. So basically, it's like, okay, well, in addition to us taking away your seasons in the spring, not your fault. Okay, fine, not your fault. But in addition to us taking away that season, now it's like, well, first, we don't like you. And then we're also going to tell you that your sport doesn't exist anymore, So all of a sudden you go from already having a terrible 2020 for most people, I think, to an even worse, because now they're like, all right, well, now you can't even have what you enjoy to do on campus. And I think it goes beyond like telling students like budget cuts, because that's understandable, but this is more personal, It's like you're going back to a campus where the administration has literally told you that like basically, you mean like basically nothing to them.
Now, you said something really interesting there. You talked about student spots, like going to other programs or other people. What did you mean by that?
So basically in their argument, or not argument, but their announcement to us, telling us that 5 sports would be cut, the president of the college told the athletic director basically that he had this goal of reducing the amount of recruited athletes to Dartmouth College by 10%. So that meant reducing 22 admission slots, if that makes sense. So they're going to take away 22 spots that would have been used for recruiting student athletes to Dartmouth and put them towards any other, I guess, just general admissions programs or maybe a special other program or something. But basically, it boils down to they want to reduce the amount of recruits coming into the school per year, basically following, I guess, this latest admission cycle.
That are athletes specifically. So reducing athlete spots.
Yeah, right. Like students who are recruited with athletic support. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris,
okay.
I have the exact quote if you want me to read it.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, let's hear it.
Hanlon wrote that athletic recruitment at Dartmouth has begun to impact the college's ability to achieve the right balance between applicants who are accomplished in athletics and applicants who excel in other pursuits, which makes it seem like you can't do both.
Yeah, which is a complete insult. I mean, we on the team, we've been, we excel academically. There isn't a choice between the two of them. I think for the returning members of the roster for this past year, our GPA average is 0.15 higher than the average for the entire school. And additionally, the average SAT score for our 5 recruits for the class of 2024 was 27 points higher than the average for the entire school. So their argument that we can't excel both in athletics and academics or other pursuits seems almost as an insult to athletes, because it's not really a choice for us. We have members who are involved in a ton of things around campus, whether it be clubs, research, Dartmouth outing club trips. One of our members this year, class 2020, was one of, I think, 2 varsity athletes who was Phi Beta Kappa. So it's really kind of disheartening to see the school doesn't value our academic achievements or our just other achievements beyond our athletics.
I mean, I think everybody knows too, across the country, I mean, rowers are among the highest GPAs at most universities. And so, I mean, you could make that argument all day. That's just, what happened to the student athlete, and what these other sports are like better than you guys? Are you, I mean, they're not, let's be honest, but I mean, that just seems like a crazy argument to me.
Yeah. And like, I get that they're making the argument that people should focus, or the school should focus on academics, which certainly is true. But I think when they take some of the teams that have done particularly well, I think, as like examples for high achieving students and people who can commit to practicing as a varsity athlete, and they say that those teams are the ones that they need to cut because they need to establish a balance between having a strong sports program and a strong academic community. I mean, if anything, I think other athletes in other sports beyond just the 5 that were cut should look at this and realize that no one is really safe in this system, I guess, because if they're taking teams that are doing, like swimming and diving, they're not a team that's failing classes and stuff. Like, I know many of them, and they're smart people, and when they're taking sports that do well in school and telling them that they're the problem, that they can't establish enough balance in these sports, I think you have to come to one of two conclusions. Either they're making these excuses up to cut these sports by telling well-achieving students that, sorry, you're ruining the balance, or that we're just the first to go, and when they feel like it, sports that are doing just as well or worse may be even more likely to be cut, and there's not going to be any warning or anything. So potential recruits to the school look at this, and anyone who's looking to play sports for 4 years at Dartmouth, look at this. I committed to 4 years as an athlete, and there are plenty of people who don't do 4 years, but when you commit to that, that's an empty promise that Dartmouth is making. So it's like no one's safe in this environment. When they tell you that your best, I think at least some of your best athletic and school balanced athletes are being cut using this excuse. I don't see what their logic is here.
You guys are the epitome of school sport student athletes. You're the epitome of student athletes.
Yeah, and our team is like a good number of walk-on athletes. As most people will probably know, rowing is one of the few sports that you can actually walk onto in college and still, potentially make the Olympics, or, make a national team, or row after college. You can achieve a high level of success in a sport like rowing, whereas other sports, it's a lot harder to get a late start and still do well. But yeah, they're taking away the opportunity, basically. I think, like, Kiana was a walk-on. Gabe rowed in high school, but got it on his own. And like, I wouldn't have met fantastic people like either of them or any of my other teammates, and they wouldn't have had that experience if we just take that walk-on opportunity away from them either.
Now, a lot of times schools are thinking about this from a business perspective as well. Are they at all worried about donations or money coming in? Like, do you think that has any part of it? Like, are they saving a football team because it brings in so much more money than lightweight rowing? And if that's true, what do you guys think is going to be the effect with the heavyweight and the lightweight alums? Like, I mean, Kiana, maybe you can speak to this, but in the future, are you going to come back and donate to this program or help them? What is that going to be like for you?
It makes it a lot less likely. What I've been hearing from a lot of the alums is that they're going to be a lot less willing to support, just because, like, we're spending 40, 50 hours a week, like, with this team, whether that's practicing or studying with the team or traveling to trips. Like, when you're taking something that was so many hours of your Dartmouth experience and then just erasing it, then it's hard to realize what you're even giving back to and what else is going to be taken away. Like, is my major going to be taken away? Is the dorm I went to going to be knocked down? Like, if things just keep getting eroded away that were what made my Dartmouth experience so important, then no, I'm like, and I think a lot of other alums agree, it just makes it a lot less endearing to support or enticing to a support.
And like, from what I remember, the rowing teams make up a huge portion of the donations from athletic teams. Don't quote me on this, but I think we're second highest in terms of donations to bringing money into the school. So that aspect doesn't make any sense. And, I'm running the—
I'm sorry, the second highest, the second highest sport that brings in the most donations.
That's what I've heard, I believe. Yeah. I'm running the petition right now on change.org, and I've been reading through a lot of the comments. There have been like hundreds of comments, people commenting why they're supporting it. And I've seen a good few that are saying I was a lightweight 84, I was lightweight 95, and I was going to give, this many thousands of dollars to the school to support the program and to support the school as well. But now I'm reconsidering because they're cutting away this sport and this team that was so valuable to my experience. So I think the school is really depriving themselves of money in the future, which does not outweigh the amount, the few, like $250,000 they're saving right now by cutting the team. It makes no sense to me.
I don't even know what to say to
Yeah,
that.
I also want to add on to that. Oh.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah. I think part of it also is that like there was just a news article released this morning actually that was a Q&A with the athletic director at Dartmouth. That was basically just the school newspaper asking him a few questions about how he made his decision, how he came about it, etc., how he chose these teams. And what's interesting is that he actually was they had been considering, or they had been talking about this plan as a course of action since the middle of the fall last year, which many people probably just finished like a $7.5 million renovation to our boathouse at Dartmouth, which was funded in large part by our alumni, in addition to the heavyweight and women's teams. But our alumni helped fund that, and to know that they were thinking about cutting these teams before the boathouse was even completed, and to have taken the money somewhat, I think, to be disingenuously by leading us on, like, oh, all three teams will be able to practice in this venue, and thanks so much for your donations. And then, I mean, I guess the first sign should have been when President Hanlon, our school president, didn't even walk 10 minutes from his house to our boathouse opening, $7.5 million new building at Dartmouth. He couldn't be bothered to walk 10 minutes to our opening, which, now looking back on it, probably just fits the script. But, that combined with the fact that they built this boathouse and had planned to cut teams without telling anyone, and then after the completion of all this, they do it to you. It's like, if I was a graduate, I'd think to myself, who knows, maybe I'll donate to anything at Dartmouth, and my money's just gonna, I don't know, fall into the hands of the bureaucracy or something and just fall through the cracks, and whatever I want it to care about at Dartmouth or anything is just in the trash, And yeah, I'm sure many of the alumni who donated to that are, yeah.
So here, like, take our money, let's build a beautiful new boathouse, and then we're gonna cut your sport after we build.
Basically, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah,
one of the
sorry, go ahead, Kiana.
I was gonna say, one of the training rooms was donated by and is named after an alumni of my class. So just to put that much care into something and then right after have it taken away is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's probably the most impactful part of the new addition is the new tank room with all the new space for ergs, and it was donated by the Van Voorhis family, and the plaque on the door says donated by the family of Robert Van Voorhis, dedicated to lightweight rowing classes of 2015 through 2018 or something like that. And so that's the most impactful part of this new addition that everyone's using, and is dedicated to the lightweight team, donated by the lightweight team, and the college took that away.
And now the lightweights can't even use it. So,
right. And so what are the heavyweights doing about this? Are they helping? Are the heavyweight alums helping as well? Like, and the women as well? What are the other teams' involvement in helping you guys, if any?
Well, obviously we have a Instagram campaign. You've probably seen that. That's been spreading throughout the rowing community, I think. I think we have, change.org petition, and we're trying to do a lot of things, but it's more than just us. I think, like, swimming and diving has been cut, golf has been cut, and it's a big deal. I think a lot of people on campus now are thinking about kind of like which side to take in this, because on one hand you could support us, but that would be against the administration, but also like it would kind of look like, well, for one, they've told student athletes on certain teams that, or the coaches have told teams that they can't actually come out as a team and support our cause. So for example, let's just say the track and field team can't make a team statement as the Dartmouth track and field team that they support Dartmouth swimming or Dartmouth rowing in their endeavor to have their sport instated. They just basically have to keep their mouths shut. They can make individual statements. So that kind of sends a message from the school to all students and also student athletes that, it's like, we're on the right side of history here with banning these sports. And it's almost like, these guys are just like rabble rousers or something causing a big deal, but that will come to pass, and we're doing the right thing here. So like, don't say anything. I think I've gotten like a lot of texts from my heavyweight friends and Bohouse, I guess teammates you'd call them, and the women have been supportive of us too. But I think it's hard when, you look at like rowing, which isn't a sport like football or basketball or something that sells tickets for their games or generates revenue from like people who are spectating. Most of the people who care about rowing are your friends and family and those who are in the circle of rowing. So I think it's hard for rowing teams to come out and support and take a real stand against someone who has the ability to do the same to your team if it so conveniences them. So I think there's a fine line that a lot of them have to walk here between showing support for their friends and fellow athletes and not stepping on anyone's toes too hard, because if you do that enough, who knows? Anything could happen at this point, especially at Dartmouth, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's scary. So they can't even really support you. I mean, what about behind the scenes? Are they kind of helping pass your petition around and trying to come up with a solution? Or, I mean, even if they can't make a public statement, are they still kind of jumping in and helping where they can?
I think a lot of, the rowers and also just everyone on sports teams in general is kind of understanding that this has larger implications than just these 5 teams. And so there have been a lot of individual support for us, the swim team and the golf team now. There's only so much that a soccer player can do to help our cause, but you go to Instagram in the last few days and it's flooded with a lot of kind of posts of support for our teams, which I think is great because people realize that if the college views our teams as expendable, they view all teams as expendable. And I have friends at other schools who also are seeing this and realizing that this also sets a precedent of undervaluing like rowing teams, but teams in general. Penn just came out and said they would be cutting no teams at all, which I think all schools should have done. Penn's showing solidarity with their athletes and saying, we don't view you guys as less than, we don't view you guys as non-students, non-academic students. You're part of the Penn community, and we're not even considering cutting any of the teams that we know you all have dedicated thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to over the last 6, 7, 8, 9, 15 years, even for some sports.
Do you think people will transfer over this? I mean, is this something worth leaving Dartmouth?
Yeah, I mean, we had a compliance meeting yesterday with the schools, I guess like athletics compliance and sports. I'm not really sure what, like sports office basically. And they basically said that if we want to, we can transfer. But, honestly, for one, there were no real administrators on that call. So it was just people who probably cared more about us than some other people who were trying to help us a little bit. But in terms of like transferring, they said, we hope you stay at Dartmouth, but if you want to leave, they can't really stop us, And I think for any athlete who has gone through the recruiting process before knows, it's not just like you can just walk up to any coach and say, I want to transfer and just leave. It's a more complex process than that. But I think for anyone who feels passionate about their sport and wants to continue pursuing it, there are 5 other schools in the Ivy, 5 schools? Yeah, no, 6 schools. Yeah, 6 other schools in the Ivy League that offer lightweight rowing. And I love Dartmouth. Like Dartmouth is a fantastic school and community, and the people are fantastic. But if you really enjoy doing your sport, I think, you have to kind of realize that Dartmouth doesn't care about you. Like, you owe nothing at this point as a recruited athlete to Dartmouth, both in terms of athletic ability, because, you have none. Your sport doesn't exist anymore. So in that sense, you owe nothing to them. But also, I think you owe no remorse or sympathy to the college to transfer out of the college, because, they've taken away basically a large part of the reason why I even went to Dartmouth was an opportunity to engage in athletic pursuits. I mean, you can go swim club or join the heavyweight rowing team, but that's a joke, honestly. To compare that to whatever you would have had if your team continued is just adding insult to injury, I think.
Yeah. And so let's talk about what you guys are doing and how you think this is going to help. So it sounds like you're obviously talking to a lot of alumni, and we have this petition going around. Do you think that they would listen to something like this? So if we get people all over the world to sign this petition and you take it to them, what if they turn around and just go like, well, I'm glad you have friends in the community that care, but we're not going to pick up your program again? Like, what do you think could happen with some of these things, and what are you guys doing about it?
Honestly, I think that's how they will react to petition. We didn't create it with any expectation of that being the deciding factor. I think we just wanted to use it to sort of drum up support around the rowing community, and people realize, because people around the country and around the world realize that this is sort of lightweight rowing is starting to be phased out, but not this fast. And it's a really valuable sport that we want to preserve. And so I've been posting it in a lot of large rowing groups. It's getting a lot of support, and I feel like the petition mainly is just there to sort of show the school how many people are behind this, and to kind of raise more awareness for it. There are other efforts that Chris and Kiana can also speak on, but a lot of things we're doing right now are just sort of supplemental to kind of the main things we're trying to do at the school.
Sure. Yeah. What else are you guys doing?
Well, I mean, I think we're doing, the petition, change.org. Well, I guess that's the same thing as a petition, but petitioning people in general to have support for sports, the 5 sports that were cut. I think it's also like a petition and an appeal to people to kind of be aware of what Dartmouth has done, not just to us, but to students in general, like a disregard for their well-being. I think, cutting 10% of recruiting spots, as far as I've been at Dartmouth, I'm going to be a senior. I've never heard of a student at Dartmouth ever saying that they demand 10% more or 10% less athletic recruits per year, 22 spots. So it's not like there was a massive push for this or anything. I don't know whose idea it was to come up with this. Maybe it would have been like a focus group or something, but no one has ever told me that would actually make any student's experience better. And I think honestly, taking away this opportunity for students to walk on to our sport, to other sports, and to have those unique perspectives on campus of, swimming athletes or rowing athletes is just detracting from the general culture that makes Dartmouth what it is. But I think, the school has said, we expect petitions, we expect you guys to try to raise money and cause a ruckus, but basically they're like, don't you worry, it's not going to change. But I think what really will make an impact here is our alumni, the other sports that were affected, their alumni, and I think in the greater picture, the alumni in general of Dartmouth realizing what is happening here. And, in the end, money talks. If people are willing to hold back their donations until they see change that they demand, no one's forcing you to donate any money to Dartmouth. And if you think that's wrong and you hold back your donations, and enough people do that, that could affect real change. So, maybe if I think we can get enough support where people are thinking twice about donating, that could change people's minds.
Speak with your dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of our organizational efforts have really just been trying to take the stated reasons that they said for cutting the team, explain how none of those make any sense. Also explain the opportunities you're taking away. The Dartmouth Lightweight Rowing team is 70% walk-ons. At least when I was there, I don't know if it's increased. We had 4 recruiting spots. So it's not like we are taking up a lot of the recruits. If you have a team that's 70% walk-ons, anyone can join the team. Whereas Dartmouth isn't going to go out in the community and start youth rowing clubs so that more diverse people can learn how to row when they're 13, 14 years old. They can have the lightweight team that people can walk onto, that anybody can join regardless of what opportunities they had access to when they were growing up. So not only are the reasons for taking away the team invalid, but you're actively doing harm to missions that you say you have for the school.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what can people do about it? I mean, you have this petition going around. People can sign this, and I'm hoping you guys will, at the very end, point us to everywhere that we can look and support and everything. But what else can people do just in the rowing community to help?
I think one of the biggest things would be just to email the president and athletic director and sort of voice your support for what we're doing, or just your opposition to their decision. We've had a lot of alumni, current athletes email the administration with personal messages, just talking about how the team impacted them. Even down to just saying, I oppose this decision. I will not be donating Dartmouth in the future. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on the school. Obviously, signing the petition, like, we want as many signatures as we can get. But that's not going to make the change. I think the school needs to realize just how wrong their decision was. Just put pressure on the administration, on Harry Sheehy, who's the athletic director. And we listed some more contacts on our Instagram, our second Instagram post. I'm forgetting them now, but I can look for them in a little bit and bring it back up.
Yeah, we'll be sure to put all of that in the show notes as well. It'll probably be hard for people to remember a bunch of email addresses here, but we'll put all of that in the show notes for sure and make sure to support you guys. Is there anything else that you think that we missed that would be really important to hear, either for supporters or people that might be sort of on the fence about this decision?
I think one thing I just wanted to say was that, a lot of people, rowing was what was getting me through quarantine, through all this. I was training 2-3 hours a day on the erg, on the bike, running, doing core, all that kind of stuff, just with the sole, goal of getting back on the water again. This year was gearing up to be one of our best years in a long time. Dartmouth brought back Dan Rook, who is this great coach, like legendary coach in the rowing world. Last year we started getting its footing, and this year we were seeing real change. Our training trip in December in Florida was the best I've been a part of. The rowing from before to after was, you wouldn't recognize the guys, the way they're moving the boat. Our ergs were the best I think they've ever been this winter. We had so much more depth than we've had in the past, and it's obviously hard to quantify success before it's happened, and hard to predict success. But our coach Dan Rook, who's been around for coaching for 40 years at least, in his little end of the season, end of the year recap, he was saying, he expected we were going to do big things this spring. This was the best winter training. He said this was the best winter training effort he's ever seen from any squad he's coached. And it's sort of sad to see that we are already pumped to race, got that taken away from us, and now we'll never be able to know what could have been.
Yeah, Chris or Kiana, what about you?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would say is people who are looking at this who might not be Dartmouth alumni or directly connected to rowing, we all rowed, or everyone who's ever rowed obviously enjoyed it at some point. I think no one does it because they're paid to do it. Rowing's not a professional sport or anything. And, it obviously it's more than just me. I don't think any of us are doing this because we just want that opportunity back, but it's more there's a legacy of rowing in general at Dartmouth, lightweight rowing, but also in the rowing community as a larger community. There's we all share the same experience. Rowing is hard, and there's that shared struggle, I think. But there's also value in that, and hopefully I think that people who are seeing this message can kind of see themselves, if this had ever happened to them, or if they had to be facing this type of situation where their club or their school that he or she rowed for is taken away all of a sudden. How would you feel about that? And hopefully you know, like you guys, whoever's seeing this or hears about this, will feel like maybe they want to help, or maybe sign a petition, or, you know, do anything within the rowing community to help us, because, you know, if that happened to any one of us in the past, it would be that same type of disappointment. You know, it's not unique to any one program, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that kind of what you think, Kiana?
Yeah, I mean, really, we just want people to keep talking about it, pressuring the administration, because like this is more than just taking away a sport. I've been reading through testimonial after testimonial, and we've had rowers liken losing the sport to being almost as bad as finding out that one of their parents passed away. We've had rowers say that they would give back their Dartmouth diploma. They would give away every memory that they have of having been on the team if it meant that the team gets to survive and continue and other people can experience what they got to. So it really is just more than losing a sport. The high schoolers that I coach have been coming up to me, and like when you see how upset they look, it would be as if like the most tragic thing happened, because they know that's just another opportunity they're not going to get to have, and they know how much they care about the sport and that it really is a huge loss.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, it's heartbreaking to even hear these stories and to see this happen to anyone. I personally have seen the rowing community kind of gather around you guys. You know, I've gotten a lot of messages that said, you know, is there anything you can do with a platform? And I don't know, you know, I'm not super popular or anything, but anything I can do, you know. I think, you know, the community as a whole is really rallying around you guys, and I'm really hoping that we can make a difference, because we all, you know, this hurts all of us. So whether it's racing against you guys or just understanding what that would feel like, I can't imagine. So where can we at least find you guys on Instagram to get a little bit more information? And we'll put the rest of the email addresses and everything in the show notes.
Yeah, so on Instagram, we're at Save Dartmouth Lights. We also have a tiny URL for our petition if you don't want to navigate to Instagram and get it from there. It's tinyurl.com/SaveD150. That brings you to our petition.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to get that out. Make sure that you guys stay in touch. Please let us know. Again, keep us updated if there's anything that happens or any changes or anything else that comes up that we can do or to help support you guys. So I really appreciate you coming on and telling us your story and telling us a little bit more information about this. So I think it hits home a lot more hearing it from you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So everyone else who's listening, make sure to go see them on Instagram, get a lot more information, get involved, listen to the stories, and we will definitely try to keep up with what's going on. And of course, you guys obviously have all of our support in the rowing community. So I really wish you the best. So
Thanks.
of course, we're with you. We're going to help where we can. So, all right. And you guys who are listening again, take care, and we will see you next week. Bye.